just wait another 2 or 3 minutes to see if Commissioner Barnes is just having some issues with the weather, and then if not, we'll get started. Thank you so much. Oh, good. Very good. Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start the meeting. So at this time, I'm calling this meeting of July the 10th, 2018 to order. If you would please stand for the invocation. I pick on Mr. Miller so many times, I think I'll just ask it myself tonight, if you don't mind. Father, we thank you for bringing us together to do the business of the city. We thank you for each resident, each family member, each person who's come tonight to be part of this meeting and to have voice in the business of the city. We ask that you give each of us wisdom and strength as we go through the meeting to do those things that would be best for everyone. We ask all these things in Christ's name, amen. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. Item number 3 is the mayor's report. And at the beginning of the mayor's report, I just wanted to take just a moment. It's a personal nature, but I wanted to take just a moment and thank my mom, Jerry Deal, and Bob Gardner also for coming to the commission meetings. Mom, you're always at the commission meetings, and you are a source of strength to me, and I'm so proud that you can be with me every time I'm at a meeting, so thank you. So for the mayor's report, I wanted to thank with all of my heart to every member of the city who worked so hard to make the 4th of July the special occasion that it was. I cannot tell you how many phone calls, emails, texts, people dropping by, people telling me what a wonderful, wonderful 4th of July celebration, and they said it was like the best one we'd ever had, and I totally agree with that. We've had some great ones, but I just think it was a really well-planned event, and it was more than an event. It was a celebration, and I can't say enough about how beautiful it was and the patriotism and the camaraderie that I saw in our city. So Mr. White and all of the employees of the city, our first responders, everybody who worked so hard, thank you so much. 14 grandchildren visiting us for the 4th of July holiday. We still have 2 left, and they're departing tomorrow, and we'll be back to normal. So that's my mayor's report, and I'm going to pass it now to Commissioner Russell.
Thank you, Mayor. I too want to commend all the employees and city manager for a very well done 4th of July celebration. Fireworks, the concert, everything was absolutely amazing. And the only other thing I've got is I've got a request for the mayor and the commission. I've gotten numerous phone calls and conversations with people in the last 2 weeks, and have urged me to reconsider my decision on the splash pad. So, and the way things should work, I would love to make a motion tonight to change it, and let's do it now, but it's not on the agenda. So I'm asking the mayor if we can put it on the agenda for the first meeting in August for us to have another discussion about the splash pads.
For the first meeting.
The reason I pick August is, unfortunately, I'm not going to be here at the end of July, and I would like to be here for the meeting. So I'm asking if it can be added to the agenda for the first meeting in August.
I will not be present the first meeting in August, if that makes a difference to you.
Well, I'm sure you want to be there too, so can we do it at the last meeting in August? Will you be here for that one? Or is that too long for us to wait?
That would definitely be, I think, a real problem with the construction. So, if you know, I'm not trying to advise you, so you have to.
Let me. The reason I've changed my mind, if you let me continue.
Oh, of course.
I've had numerous phone calls, numerous conversations with people that said that they're like me. They think it's going to get used more at Kane Griffin versus the sports park. That, along with, I don't think it's financially responsible for Lynn Haven to consider putting in 3 splash pads, which I think that's what's going to happen if we don't move this one. So it's hard for me not to say that we need to move that. And if you're not going to be here in August, and Mike's telling me that we need to do something, then I'm going to make a motion that we move the splash pad from the rec center to Kane Griffin.
Pardon me?
I'll second the motion.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion from the board?
I would, if you'd allow me to, Mayor.
Sure, go ahead.
I've also had, some phone calls and some emails, but also I talked to Mr. Miller just this morning, actually. He and I have not been able to connect. I told the commission and the residents and Mr. Miller that I wanted to get with him. My position has always been that if we're paying, if we're spending taxpayer dollars, I just wanted to get the most use. Mr. Miller has worked on me quite a bit, along with some other folks, and we were going to meet tonight and try to get our schedules together. And so I think I'm in a position where I could go ahead and support it without doing that. That being said, I would like for us to still entertain at the next budget workshop the sports complex. My only reservation with doing it tonight is that it's not on the agenda. I understand time frames, but I'm certainly willing to go ahead and support it tonight.
Is there any other discussion from the commission?
I'd just like to say I'm thrilled to death. And the sooner that we vote, I would think is going to help get it started, because the kids have to go back to school in about a month or so. I don't know how soon they can be constructed, but I assume it's all here. The part, oh, heck yes, let's do it.
Okay, since this has been brought up without it being on the agenda, I would be remiss to not ask if there are any comments from the public, so let me do that, and then we'll proceed. Are there any comments from the public? And I see none. Oh, I see one.
Mississippi Avenue. I'm very thrilled to hear that you say this, but we do understand that if it's not in this year's budget right now, it's no way that we can run down there and say we're going to do it. But if you say we're going to put it in the budget, put in there and put a stamp on it, next summer's coming around. Next summer's coming around. You can't just come out there and do it, bam, all at once.
Commissioner Barnes was not here during the discussion, so let's just.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so the motion has passed. And I would just personally like to say that I congratulate the commission on moving in the direction that the people asked us to move, and I think it's a great decision, and I congratulate you all. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to item number, we're still on Commissioner's report. So Commissioner Tender, Commissioner Russell, did you have anything else? You were done? I'm sorry.
No, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes, I too have been getting lots of compliments on the fireworks. Somebody came in the other day and said it was the best ever. And I said, okay, I thought it was pretty spectacular. But, and the only other thing I've been helping or work on, and I've been talking to the city manager about, is the code enforcement. And we've got a few hot spots that really need to be corrected, but I think you got that under control. And for me, that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Barnes, did you have a report this evening?
Yes. Yesterday I attended the ethics training that's mandatory. It's down at the school board office yesterday, and it was pretty good training.
Okay, thank you so much. I also attended that. It was a great training. Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, also attended the ethics. It's always good. I wanted to take the opportunity, to say how much I appreciate the firm, which is obviously Mr. Jackson's firm, for doing that. They do represent a lot of municipalities and the school board, and I think it's their way of kind of giving back to us and allowing us to go and have the ethics training for free. And it's not very often you get to ask lawyers questions for free. So I think the mayor got her money's worth yesterday, so that was good. Also attended the TPO meeting last week or so, and then also have July the 18th I'll be meeting to negotiate with the architect for some work at the transit yard. I was very honored to be a part of the Dixie Boys tournament out at the sports complex. Can't say enough good things about the job David's doing out there. Those fields look like they were ready for the World Series. I mean, it looks fantastic, and hope to see more tournaments out there. It was very well done. Also can't say enough good things about the 4th of July. The flag was a big hit, obviously. Whoever thought of that, it was just fantastic. Everybody, and just really want to say how much we appreciate everyone that worked so hard on that. I know it's got to be a long day. I hope everybody got to take some breaks. Plan on attending the grand opening for the Pinnacle at the Hammocks Crossing, and also looking forward to the ribbon cutting at the Bark Park on Friday. And that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. And before the city manager's report, which is item number 5, I just also wanted to comment that for the ethics training that was held at Bay District Schools office, I would like to commend the city manager and the employees that we had the largest delegation attending the ethics training other than the school district, and of course it was in their building. So congratulations to all the employees who took a half day to go down there and do the training, which was so important. So thank you. Mr. White?
Yes, ma'am. Not a lot to say. I do want to congratulate and thank all the employees for a job very well done for the 4th of July. Took a lot of manpower, woman power, and in between a lot of volunteers. We had a lot of people volunteer to help. I have never seen little girls eat as much watermelon in my whole life, but I'd put the one that won it up against anybody. But very good job. Also been working a lot with some industrial stuff, so hopefully we'll have some big announcements in the near future for everyone. And also my staff just recently went through a visioning process for the city, and I've just got their 1 through 5 year vision of what the city needs to be, and I'll hopefully work out something with y'all, maybe a workshop before or the next board meeting to be able to work on some more things that y'all think the direction the city needs to go. With that, we have Employee of the Month, and at this time I'd like to ask Mr. Tommy Dowdy and his supervisor please come up front.
Is it on? I'd like to introduce you to Tommy Dowdy. He's, as of this past
attorney's report?
Yes, ma'am. I just have one quick thing. The city staff passed out a revised resolution number 2018-07-715, which is agenda item number 9. There really are no substantive changes on it. It's just a more specific subject to kind of clarify it a little bit. Basically, the ordinance does, or the resolution does the same thing it did before, which is authorize the submission of the application to Triumph Gulf Coast, and authorizes the mayor or the city manager to sign the application.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, moving on to item number 7. This is the public commentary portion of our meeting. Anyone who's present is welcome to speak to the commission. I would ask that you limit your speaking time to 3 minutes if possible. If you need longer than that, let me know, please. If you need a few 30 seconds more or something like that, we won't cut you off. And we welcome anyone. So, anyone? Mr. Walker?
Good afternoon. Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. First off, I'd like to thank the city for allowing the Heritage Society to decorate their centennial tree. It was a pleasure to do it, and it looked pretty good. Thanks, Stace. Second of all, I'd like to thank the city also. I was asked by a citizen recently, when you were doing the Kinsall Park, you were doing the upgrades and everything like that, why wasn't the pavement done by the pavilion and by the beach? And I didn't understand that. I said, they've done so much down there. It looks so well. And now it's going to be used, I'll tell you that much. It will be used. So I took a ride down, and I had to send a note back to the citizen saying, what you asked for was done. So thank you again for that. I don't know if you're aware of the City of Lynn Haven's organizational chart. I don't know if you're aware of who's on top. There has to be somebody on top. But if you're not aware of who's on top, take a look at your website and you'll find out. On top is the citizens. Then below it are the commissioners. Then the city manager. And then the worker bees, which get very little credit. They thank God they got some today. It's interesting. I'm looking at it as an avenue of our charter, similar to the Constitution of the United States, similar to the Constitution of the state of Florida. I do not believe, in reading it, that it has been updated since 1950, when it was inception. Its first line says, the existing municipality is abolished. Reading through it and listening to meetings and following what's going on, I see a little controversy between the charter and what we do. And we get in debates about it. Maybe we should do the following. The Constitution of the United States is revisited almost every day. They look at it, play games, throw darts at it, whatever they want to do. The state of Florida has in its statutes, the Constitution will be revisited by committee and updated every 10 years. They're going through it right now. That's pretty important. Why? They update it because things change. People change. So I read the charter, and just 3 points that I'd like to make to you, if I may make it quick.
Okay.
And a
I will
recommendation.
allow it. We're at 3 minutes, but we're going to allow it because I know you're in the middle.
Section 2, the city attorney once said that the charter trumps resolutions and ordinances. Section 2, Section 12 have idiosyncrasies in them. One of them, in Section 12, it says the commissioners don't have to live in the city, while the appointed boards and employees do. That's a kind of hypocritical attitude that caught me off guard. Another section said the mayor. I take this section as being sexist. It doesn't allow the mayor to be a woman. It has his, he, does not say she. I don't think these things are house cleaning exercises. The Constitution or the Charter cannot be changed but by referendum by the people. I would recommend that we put something in there, that we visit our charter, update it, bring it up to snuff, technology, every 5 years, 10 years, whatever. But I believe we should revisit it soon because the charter is becoming very important in conversations we've been having lately. That is my suggestion. I would like to see that followed through. Thank you for your time.
I appreciate your comments and your suggestions, Mr. Walker. Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Mr. Miller?
Again, Leon Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue. I got a couple of questions I need an answer for. Where are we on 390 from 77 to 231? What do Lynn Haven stand now? Some people's got some letters the other day from the State Road Department saying they were just going to resurface 390. Have we heard anything directly about this?
Are you talking about from 77 eastward?
To 231.
Okay. My understanding, and Commissioner Friend may also want to make a comment because he also serves on the TPO board, but my understanding at this time is that they are planning for a 4-lane road rather than the 6 that they had talked about before, but they've also made the comment that right now they are in a shortfall of over $300 million to purchase right-of-ways. And so I would say that right now it looks as though the east side of 77 going to 231 is at a delay, and a delay that we don't know when it's going to be over. In other words, we don't have a date. That's my understanding. Commissioner Friend may have something he'd like to add. Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. Actually, I understood it to be that we were going to go ahead and go from 4 lanes to 6 lanes, but I would definitely agree with the mayor that it was put back. As far as the TPO and the long-range plan, it's been pushed way back because of funding. That being said, you and I talked about it a little bit today. The bridge is still going forward because the bridge is going to have to be done before the funding would become available for 6 lanes. And then also I think they're going to continue with the turn lane for North Bay Haven to try to relieve some of that traffic there. These are all temporary fixes because the funding is not available for the 6th lane. So.
Okay, thank you. The other thing is that King Griffin Park, since Bay Haven now have secured their own baseball field, I think we need to look at and start working with Gulf Coast College and see some of the teams that's coming down for the spring and see if we can work out agreement so that they can use King Griffin Park and not just let it sit there and go to waste because it's been too much invested in there, if we can do that.
I think that's a great idea. The city manager can look into it.
We've already been in touch with National Dizzy Dean and also Dixie Boys about that park, utilizing that park more and the other parks. So we're continue talking with them right now to hopefully bring some of those tournaments here and let the city of Lynn Haven host those tournaments.
Okay.
At our parks.
But most of them are talking about the college team that swing down through the spring season and be playing. Quite a few years ago, they used to have 5 and 6 ball games out there with college teams from Ohio, Kentucky, and everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have anything to add this evening? Yes, sir. Come on up.
We finally got our first of the renderings on the ability would you like to see it?
Sure. Put it up. Would you please introduce yourselves to the audience so everybody will know what we're talking about as well? Thank you. That's lovely. Sure. Maybe we can hold it this way. Do you mind? No. Okay. There we go. I think that's it. Yep. Oh, no,
This is a rendering of a job creator. It's a small airport that we want to go in Lynn Haven. We want to create jobs for our people in school at Haney in the Aircraft Technology School. We also we have military retirees that will be looking for jobs. We have a lot of retirees within the community, especially a lot of elderly women who are very skilled. We have the capability of creating jobs for them. so that little bit of Social Security can be extended till the end of the month. We would like to set up some kind of a meeting with the city commission to go over this before we just hit the public with it.
I think that maybe the prudent thing to do, because I'm intrigued with it. I think it's a wonderful conception. I think it's something that if it could come to fruition would be, it would just be amazing for this community. I think that possibly the next step would be to get with the city manager and possibly set up an appointment to meet with the commission, maybe through a workshop, maybe a morning workshop or an afternoon workshop, whatever would be convenient,
Right.
so that you could do a very detailed presentation, and then we could see what the interest level is in the discussion and invite the public. Unfortunately, we can't meet without it being a public meeting, so we have to advertise it, have the workshop, and I think that might be the way to go. Mr. White? Would that be suitable?
That'd be great.
So if you could contact Mr. White, and then you can work with him on a schedule and
I tell you what, I even do one better. Julia, get with you, get your name and number, and I'll call you, and we'll set up something.
All right.
All right?
And
That'll be good.
Miss Julie Higby's on the front row here. She can help you out. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
coming.
She's got it.
Can I pass the?
Got it all. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. They're going to return the rendering to you, and thank you so much for bringing it. Thank you. Okay, anyone else have something to bring before the commission tonight? Yes, sir?
We don't know yet. We've been offered 3 or 4 places around the city. Usually over toward 231, maybe up 231, maybe on the corner in there.
Okay.
On the way, there are places.
Thank you.
We're talking to a lot of people right now.
Okay, gentlemen, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to call you, I'll have to call you out of order, gentlemen. I'm sorry, you just can't have a conversation in the middle of the commission meeting. No, I'm not. I don't mean to sound rude, but if you would, just after the commission meeting, maybe get together in the foyer and carry on. And we are looking so forward to hearing from you in the workshop. Thank you so much for all your work. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Is there anyone else in the meeting tonight who would like to offer commentary? Thank you. Moving on then to item number 8, which is our consent agenda. The only item we have are the minutes from the last meeting. I just need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, corrections, or comments about the minutes? Any discussion or comments from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll for approval?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so the minutes stand approved. There is no old business tonight. Moving on to new business. Item number 9 is Resolution 2018-7-715. This is the approval to give the city manager authorization to execute the documents for the Triumph Gulf Coast application, and action is required on this. If you recall, this is our application to the Triumph Board for a approximately $15 million addition to our sports complex, as well as an approximate $2 million emergency management center for the city of Lynn Haven that we have already received pre-application approval, and the city's been working very hard on the application. So, Mr. White, if you wouldn't mind reading the resolution for us.
Resolution number 2018-07-715, a resolution of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, authorizing applications to Triumph Gulf Coast Incorporated for funding of certain qualified projects within the city, authorizing the mayor or the city manager to execute such applications on behalf of the city and providing an immediately effective date.
Thank you. Is there a motion for acceptance?
Move approval.
Second.
Been a motion and a second. Any questions or discussion from the board? Any questions or discussion from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes,
Aye.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. So it stands approved. Moving to item number 10. This is for discussion regarding the Mosley Homecoming Parade, which we have every year in Lynn Haven. The route runs north on Highway 77, beginning at the Lynn Haven Baptist Church to 5th Street, and the possibility of moving the parade to an alternate route or to Florida Avenue. City Manager, did you have a report? I see your name beside this item.
Yes, ma'am. We've been doing this for quite a while. I have gotten a lot of feedback from our police department as it relates to safety, due to the fact the parade is not that large of a parade like the 4th of July. One option you would have, of course, approve it like you normally do. Another option could be possibly look at working with Mosley, moving it to Minnesota, or even possibly Florida Avenue as an option. Part of the reason is we do not have enough manpower, cones, and all to separate all the side roads. So some people actually get into the parade, which creates a danger. And also, we also have a lot of the elementary schools are getting out at that time. So you have a lot of extra traffic. It's a very difficult task shutting down Highway 77.
Okay. Is there discussion or is there a motion from the commission regarding this item?
Mayor, if I may?
Sure.
I understand the issue with Highway 77, and if Chief Reamer thinks we need to move it, that's probably what needs to happen. The only issue I would have is parading on Minnesota is like parading in your front yard. It just doesn't give the kids that feeling that they're doing something extraordinary. So if we're going to have to move it, I would suggest moving it to Florida and not having them parade in their own front yard. And just my thinking on it.
Is there other discussion?
Mayor, let me speak. I agree with Commissioner Russell too. When I first thought about this, when the city manager brought it up, I thought, heck, who wants to be in a parade that's running down a side street from 77? And I just think it's really important that we pay attention to these students. These are kids that are excelling and doing extra things and obviously making good grades, and I think they need that attention. We should be really honoring them, and I know in the past that this street is full. I mean, parents and kids, and I thought last year that the parade actually ended about 2 o'clock before grade school got out, but nonetheless, my goal would be to make sure that it continues. I don't have a problem with Florida Avenue, but I agree with Commissioner Russell. Parading down Minnesota, you might as well just have it in the backyard. I don't think the kids would get out of it what they've gotten in all the years past.
Okay. Anyone else?
Thank you.
Yes, Mayor.
Go ahead.
Have we communicated with Mr. Bullock? I mean, how does the principal feel? Do we know, Michael?
Not currently, no, sir.
Yeah, I mean, they've requested it for 77, and I would hate to just not approve that request. Is this something that we could table and come back around at the next meeting? And because, I mean, to me, I would never want to go against our chief of police, quite honestly, so it puts us in kind of a tough position. But to me, 77, we try to make it our main street, and I agree with Commissioner Tindall. I just think we need to give them all the credit that's due and have this big parade going right down the center of Lynn Haven. I just would feel uncomfortable moving it if they've requested it on 77 without some communication to them first.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Barnes?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. And I totally understand safety's first. I'm one of the first ones on this commission that talks about safety. However, being a school administrator, I know how important this parade is to these students because they have worked hard. But like I said, I mean, if we need to move it, then we need to move it. I'm not so keen on moving it to Florida Avenue simply because of the width of the road over there, and it's just more congested than it is here on Highway 77 as well. But I would like for us to contact Mr. Bullock, and let's just see if we can work out some sort of compromise before we just actually say, no, not on Highway 77. Yep.
Michael, yes, go ahead.
Matt, do we have plenty of time as far as working with DOT?
Yeah, you got plenty of time.
Mayor, may I say something else?
Sure, go ahead.
The other thing, I don't even know if this is possible, but is it possible for us to get volunteers, adult volunteers, throw an orange vest on them or something and put one at every intersection? Because I understand the problem. Cars are just coming in, but if it's possible to get volunteers, I'd certainly volunteer.
Thank you. Chief, would you like to weigh in to speak to the commission on this at all, or are you good? You're welcome to.
so it's just a big loop, and we have to control both sides of that. It's a tough job, but if the commission wants to continue it, we'll make it work.
Okay. I appreciate that. And I would weigh in with one other item. If I totally agree that Minnesota would be unacceptable. I think that's just out of the, I don't see any, I was a teacher at Mosley for many years, and I think they would be very disappointed with that. But if it comes down, and I've been told that that FDOT in the future, there may be some issues with them as well with having the parade there. So if it gets to that point, I would say that we've now had our Christmas parade on Florida for 2 years in a row, and it's been very successful. It's been very well received. And actually, I've had several police officers tell me that they felt that they could manage that, pretty well on Florida. And even if it coincided with the elementary school letting out, those children love to watch the parade, and it would be, right there for them too. So I think that's a viable option if we had to go to something else. But as far as the width, height, or whatever, Florida, it worked very well for the Christmas parade. So I think it would be a viable option. So, but I would entertain a motion at this time from the commission regarding. I've heard your thoughts, but we need to put it in the form of a motion, I think.
Yeah, Mayor, I would move that we table the item until give the chief and/or the city manager an opportunity to talk to the principal at Mosley and tell him of the alternative plan.
Okay. Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Are there any comments from the public regarding the Mosley Parade? Yes, Mr. Gardner.
Bob Gardner, Marina Bay. Judy had a wonderful idea of getting people to volunteer, and people with golf carts can block streets. So if you'd ask the people in Lynn Haven, I think they'd be more than happy to help you. I will. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Anyone else have a comment about the parade? Yeah, Mom.
I'm Jerry Deal. This is probably going to get the police mad with me.
No, it won't. Go ahead. Speak your mind.
Well, we've had that parade so many times through the middle of town, and there's so many of the Mosley kids, and I think they're going to be super disappointed to have how many blocks do you have there for a parade to be on Florida Avenue?
It's the same length.
It's the same length as what they would be on
They could go
this
from
street?
5th to 12th.
Well, I was thinking they would have a lot more room on 77, so I've spoken out of turn.
It's wider,
I guess.
and it's more exciting. It's the main road. I'll
And
give you that.
it's the biggest thing in their school all the year, so I think hard and long about it.
Okay. Appreciate that comment, Mom. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, there's been a motion that we table this until the next meeting and a second with some discussion. So, Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and so we will wait until you've had time to talk with Mr. Bullock and then go forward. Development order approval number 11 is North Bay Haven Charter Academy Athletic Fields, and this is a quasi-judicial public hearing. We're hearing from our city planner and Mr. Jackson.
Number 11 is a quasi-judicial hearing of the city of Lynn Haven. If anybody plans on providing any testimony on this item, please go ahead and stand and raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth upon penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you. And if any commissioners had any ex parte communications with the developer or the city regarding number 11, please go ahead and disclose those on the record now.
I've had none.
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 Thank you, ma'am.
This is a development order application from North Bay Haven Charter Academy. The applicant is Larry Bollinger from Bay Haven Charter Academy. The agent is Doug Crook, PE, and he's actually here tonight if you have any questions for him. The address is 1 Buccaneer Drive, parcel number 11344-025-000. The land use is TND, Traditional Neighborhood Development. The property size, 16 acres, and the existing uses on the site are a school. The piece of property that we're talking about tonight is vacant property, but the school is across the boulevard. The project engineer, J. Doug Crook from Panhandle Engineering, and the reviewing engineer was Mott McDonald. This shows you the location of the athletic fields. You're familiar with this site, East Highway 390. There's Mill Bayou Boulevard going up to the north, and the school is located on the west side of that property. And that portion that's in blue with the red star is the property that we're talking about tonight. This is the aerial shot of the property. This is the land use. This is TND. That orangey gold kind of stripe is TND. What I wanted to point out to you was, you see the parcel here in red. Just to the north, in between this red parcel and the water, is where the stormwater pond currently is. This is an old aerial. This is the newest aerial that I could pull from the property appraiser's site. This is actually 2015. So, year ago, I believe, it was last year, that the school came to us for a DO for tennis courts, you might recall. So the stormwater pond was constructed at the same time as the tennis courts, so that is already in there. And that stormwater pond was designed to support the additional fields and infrastructure. So what is being proposed here are various fields plus a pavilion which is going to house a concession stand, weight room, changing rooms, etc. And supporting infrastructure, a bit of additional parking, but there will also be parking across the street at the school when these fields are used in the evening. There was one thing that I wanted to bring to your attention, and that is that there was an agreement, a tri-party agreement between Bay Haven Charter Academy, the school, and D&H Properties, who sold this land to the school, that they were supposed to be within 90 days of the development. And I think that expired, I think it was March the 2nd, 2017, a crosswalk put in to lead from the athletic fields across Buccaneer Drive to the school and the parking that's there. So that has not been done. D&H Properties, or John David, was the person who was responsible for putting that in and was supposed to pay for it. I had a meeting with him. He said that he was going to talk to the contractors that did the curb cuts. He said that they had already billed him for it, and he was going to talk to them about installing it, but I haven't heard anything back from him. I would just like to perhaps recommend that any development order that was approved tonight was conditional upon that crosswalk going in for safety issues, and so therefore no permits, even though you approve it tonight, no permits will be able to be pulled to start developing and constructing this project until that crosswalk is put in for the safety of the children.
May I ask a question about that? When you were speaking with the planning board, were they advised of the crosswalk issue, and did they agree with that as well?
I didn't put it up with them. No. They recommended approval for the development order for this project, but that isn't something. I felt that was the city commission. It wasn't
discussed by the planning board. Okay, thank you. That's all I needed. Thank you.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, go ahead.
My concern is the school's making the application, and if we were to do that, it would kind of handcuff them to rely on the developer to do what they originally agreed to do. Do we have any teeth there to, that's, I just don't want to handcuff the developer. Not the developer, but the applicant.
That would be a Rob Jackson question. The engineer did, for Panhandle Engineering, I think he felt that perhaps the school would be happy to finish that up, seeing as how the curb cuts were already in there, but I don't really know that he can speak for them. I don't know if he's asked them. No. So, like I said, it was a tri-party agreement. It was between D&H Properties, the school, and the city. But D&H were the responsible party for making sure that those crosswalks were put in.
So I guess if I could then, Mayor, ask city attorney a question then. So if we're a party to the contract, then we would have some teeth, so to speak, with the developer to adhere to what he agreed to do.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, there's a three-party agreement that was recorded and if they didn't do something that they were supposed to do, that anybody could sue the other party to make it happen. And so that would be either Bay Haven or the city.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from the commission? Okay, any questions or comments from the public? Okay, thank you, Ms. Richard.
Thank you.
Is there a motion for approval of the development order?
I'd make the motion that we go ahead and approve it with the recommendation of the city planner, that permits only get issued after the crosswalk is completed.
Okay,
I'll
could you
second
repeat
that
that?
motion.
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear the whole, could you repeat?
Yeah,
one
I'm
more
sorry.
time? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd make the motion that we approve the applicants, but take the city planner's recommendation that we hold off on any permits until the crosswalk is complete.
Thank you.
And I will second that motion.
Okay, there's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion from the board on the motion? Any from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Barnes?
Aye.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So it stands approved with the understanding of the crosswalk. Thank you so much for your work on that. Okay, at this time, we're at item number 12, which is adjournment of the meeting. Thank you all so much for attending. We look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. The meeting is adjourned.